Hey there. Welcome back to the Blissful Biz Show. Today I'm talking with Rebecca Tracey from Uncaged Life. She's teaching mostly coaches, health coaches, life coaches, how to come up with their brand message, get clarity on their niche, create their first packages, and get their first clients. We have a really amazing conversation about how to get started, what to look out for, what mistakes to avoid, all the things. So I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Hey, Rebecca, welcome to the Blissful Biz Show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to connect with you. Why don't we start with you introducing yourself and telling our listeners where you are from, what you do, how you help people?
Yeah, I'm living in Squamish BC, staring out at a very rainy mountain. My business is called the Uncaged Life, and I work with coaches and healers and really any kind of service type business that wants to be able to run their service online. And I help them basically learn how to sell what they're doing. So most of the people that we work with in our program are brand new to business. They're not necessarily new to doing the thing they do, but they are new to business and they're struggling to figure out how to niche it all in, how to, talk about it in a way that actually makes sense to people and how to start to get the word out and get clients. And usually it's not as easy as they made it sound like in their coach training school or whatever program they're coming from. So I help them kind of bridge the gap between getting started and becoming a business owner.
I love your program. I love how focused it is and you like everything that you communicate as well. Can you share a little bit more about your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, it was definitely a roundabout journey, as most, business journeys are. I started in 2011, so that's ages ago in the online business world. And I was actually a health coach. So I had graduated from a program in holistic nutrition, and I also had taken a life coach training. And I was also at the time working for an online wellness company where I was doing all of their social media and blogging and kind of learning about the online space through that. And I was trying to start my own coaching business and couldn't quite figure out what the hell I was trying to say. I was like really interested in the health and nutrition piece and really interested in the life coaching piece. And then there was this kind of other piece that I was always interested in, which was like freedom from being stuck in a shitty job, I guess, to put it simply. And so I was kind of trying to figure all that out for myself. And during that time, I ended up doing all of my practice coaching with my other nutritionist and life coach friends. And it turns out the one thing they all needed help with was figuring out what they were doing with this new career that they were starting. And so from more of a life coaching perspective, I was coaching them around like clarity on what they wanted to do and giving them permission to, drop all the pieces that didn't feel resonant to them. And at the same time, I was building my business and I was working for this other company, learning about online marketing. And so I would kind of start to bring that into my work with them. And it just slowly morphed into, turned out I wasn't a great life coach and I really liked telling people what to do and teaching. So I stopped coaching and I sort of started teaching more marketing, but it was a slow process to get there.
I love that. Can you share what were some of your biggest struggles, especially when we were just starting out?
Yeah. So I started my business in my camper van.
Where my business from a camper van.
Yeah, I know. So my boyfriend at the time and I had bought this really crappy old van. We were broke and we're like, let's just go on a year-long rock climbing trip around the States and Canada. And so we did, but at the same time, I didn't want to delay starting this business that I knew I was starting for another year. So I was like, you know what, you're just going to do it all at once. So you're going to start the business and you're going to go on this year-long adventure and it's all going to work. And it sort of worked. But I think the most challenging part was figure out how to get consistent clients. I remember chatting with another coach friend of mine, and we'd each kind of had a couple of clients that were paid and then they dropped off and then we'd find a few more, but it just never felt consistent. And I remember thinking like, how will this ever become a full-time job? Like, how am I ever going to make enough to move out of my van and move back to the city? It just seems impossible. And it's not impossible. And I figured it out, but there is a lot of frustration at the beginning when, I had never done it before. I was still learning. And I didn't have anyone around me who was doing it. Like very few people were sort of interested in the online business model at that stage. Of course, now post-COVID, everyone's starting an online business. But I really felt like it was just me chipping away and Googling things into the late hours of the night and trying to figure it all out.
I know it was really a different era, and
Yeah.
we didn't know what we didn't know.
And
In
we
a
just
way,
didn't have
right?
as many people doing it. There was like the kind of digital nomad thing was just kind of, I would say, like getting more popular then. And people kind of becoming like lifestyle coaches to help you, have freedom and sort of general stuff like that. But there just wasn't the same types of online business resources, especially now with COVID. I just mean, it's like so easy to start an online business now because everything is literally set up to help you do that. So people are lucky who are starting now.
I know. I mean, it's also like people are more open to learn online. Just one
Yeah, to
silver
learn
linings,
online,
I
to
think.
coach
I mean,
online.
there's a lot
Yeah,
more noise as well, and I think it's definitely getting more difficult to stand out. So that's
yeah,
probably where niching and messaging comes in.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about that. What are the biggest mistakes you see people making?
I think like, especially when it comes to standing out, I see a lot of people trying too hard. So what I mean by that is like trying to make their business really, really unique by like bringing in some weird angle that really doesn't actually make sense, or trying to like smush in every single passion that they have until it's like, full to the brim of everything that they care about. But what happens when you do that is we have to think about it as like our clients don't really care that much about us. They just kind of care about their own problems. They're just walking around with problems that they need solved. And so if we're like focusing on our side of the business in that we need to make it feel like us and smush in all our interests and make it unique and try to bring in this weird angle, it's not actually what our clients need. They just need us to be really clear about how we can solve their problem and how we can do that for them. And so I see this a lot with new coaches who like try to come up with some kind of like unique angle. And I think we just need to drop all of that and just get back to like the people who we're trying to help, focus more on them and what would be helpful for them versus like what we think needs to be smushed into our program or our business.
What would be the first step that you recommend there for people to find that out?
Yeah,
To move
market
forward?
research. Definitely market research. I need a sexier name for that. But it's something that any company that was creating a product would do. If you were going to make a new cookie, you're going to go and you're going to make it the best you can and you're going to go give it to 1,000 people and get their feedback on it. But we don't do that. We like as service providers, we tend to like get nervous about going out and trying things and asking for feedback. We feel like we have to have it all perfect before we show it to anyone, which isn't how good businesses are built. So we have to be willing to go out and find the people that we want to work with and just like dig into their brains, take them out for a coffee, have a Zoom chat, send them an email and just ask them questions about what's going on for them and what they've tried in the past and really getting into their brains about kind of how they're thinking about what's going on for them. Because then you can create your packages and your programs and your marketing from an informed place and that's more about your clients than it is about you. And I find when we hold ourselves back from doing that research, we end up creating a business that's like for us versus being for other people, which is really what the business should be about.
Yeah, I love that. I 100% agree. Also, that it's really uncomfortable, especially when you do it for the first time. So this is definitely one of those mindset blocks that we have to overcome there. It's like all those fears of people. Oh my God, it's getting real, basically.
And sometimes the fear of like people might say things that aren't what we want to hear. Like that happens all the time. And isn't that good to know then that you're not building an entire business based around something people don't want, right? Like it's so helpful to know that at the beginning versus, squeezing your idea so tightly and building a whole website around it and like creating that to be this huge thing and then like launching it and then nobody wants it. So it's better for us, even though it's harder because it means our ideas are going to shift from what we probably thought they were going to be originally.
Yeah. I know a lot of our listeners are yoga teachers and a lot of them are multi-passionate, although I don't know anybody really who isn't. But
yeah, I know. I always laugh when people say that. I'm like, everyone is multi-passionate.
But they're doing like a million trainings, and after your teacher training, you're just immediately signing up for the next one, and then you do Reiki, and then you do like that breathing exercise things and meditation and then a lot of them also feel like, yes, but what I do is just like all encompassing, it's just lifting up people's lives basically. And
then how do you sell that?
How do you solve that? Do you choose? What would you say to them to really choose a problem? Or
Yeah, I think like it can work to have multi-modalities that you work with. So I see it in kind of work in two different ways. One is where somebody, does Reiki, teaches yoga classes, does some coaching, and they kind of find these clients through different avenues. So it's like people know them from yoga, and so then they get really interested in the energy work, so they book Reiki sessions, and then that kind of has a word of mouth thing happening. So where they sort of like do different modalities in different packages with people versus like blending them all together with one person. Or I've seen it where they market themselves around like a particular problem. So that could be like, God, I don't know, people are struggling with, letting go of things that happened in the past and it's still affecting them in their relationships and they're wanting to like overcome these patterns. So some kind of problem, and then they use all of their tools. So they might do some movement and body work and somatic work. They might incorporate a Reiki session. So they sort of pull from their toolkit with this client to help them get to that end result. I think where it gets tricky is where we're like, well, Reiki can help with anything and yoga can help with any different thing. And so then we don't have a way to actually talk about it clearly. We just have like a list of modalities, which isn't really what people are wanting to sign up for. Like if you're going to pay you $1,000 for a program, I want to know that it's going to get me to something. And that's where niching and talking kind of more focused on the problem becomes really important.
Yes, definitely. This we teach yoga for everybody.
Yeah, which is that can be a niche. Like yoga for everybody can be a niche, but you have to be really intentional about that and the language you're using and kind of what the premise is and like who everybody, but what does that mean? Like what is it not? What kind of yoga are you not teaching is a good way to kind of position it.
Or you niche too much. That can happen as well.
Or you can niche too much. I've definitely had some niches. It's rare, but where I'm like, I think this is too narrow. I think we need to just go back a step.
I had one of my students. She launched an online program, Yoga for Tango Dancers, very successfully right at the beginning of the pandemic when all the tango dancers were just frustrated because they couldn't go dancing.
Yeah.
So, but after a while, she just grew out of it. She got a little bit bored just talking about yoga for tango dancers. So that can happen as well. I think what's really important here is just like, if you find a niche, you don't have to stick for it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's the fear, right?
It's just like,
but what if I get bored of it?
For the moment.
If you get bored of it, great, then switch. Like it's not a big deal. And you're gonna make more money starting with a niche than you are sitting back and trying to wait to think or like journal your way to the perfect niche that you're never going to get bored of. You're never going to get anywhere if you do that. Whereas if you just start with a niche, start getting clients, start making money, you can switch your niche later and you'll be so much further ahead than, trying to pencil it out on paper and figure out the perfect one.
Yes, definitely. But you did you ever switch niches or did you just really follow your journey?
I kind of kept narrowing in. So I feel like at the beginning, I was working with business owners because they were life coaches and health coaches who were my friends, who were in my training programs. But when I first started, actually, that's not entirely true because when I first started, they were kind of the people in my world. So that's who I was coaching. But I was also working with people who didn't know what business they wanted to start or like it was almost like career coaching. It was like they didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives, but they knew they weren't happy in their current job. So it was a little bit kind of career coaching-ish, but with a life coaching angle. And I didn't like doing that. I learned very quickly that like those people are not ready to make moves. And I would get frustrated because I coached them for 6 months and they still wouldn't quit their job. And I'd be like, come on. And so it wasn't a good niche for me. And then I was also coaching people who I had kind of 3 little buckets of niches that were related. And I sort of just like chiseled away at them. The more I worked with people in each one, the more I started to see what I liked doing and also where the need was, like who was willing to pay and who was getting the best results. And then I just followed that because what's the point of following the other ones if nobody wants to pay and we're not actually getting anywhere with them?
And you just focus on selling one program still, right? Or did you?
Yeah, we have a couple little programs, but really the focus is like all roads lead to our Uncaged Your Business program. And I've been selling it since 2013. So it's been like, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. And it's obviously been refined over the years. And, we edit the program every couple of years and update it and all of that. But yeah, it's been basically the same program. And I think that's because at the beginning, I launched everything. In my first couple of years, I probably had like over 30 different offers, VIP days. I ran retreats in Belize. I did, one-on-one coaching. I did smaller groups. I did a membership. I just did everything because I was kind of throwing the spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick. And I eventually started to refine my process enough that I got to the place where I was like, this is what works. This is how I can best help people. These are the people who need, who kind of intersect with what I can offer and get them the best results. And now we just have a great program that works, and I love teaching it. So yeah, why put the focus anywhere else,
No, it's amazing. And I also love that you shared it's always the journey that takes you there. It's so easy for people to see somebody else's business and think, oh, they have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Firstly, it never feels that way for anybody, I think. But even like, if it's like, okay, it's figured out. It took time and effort and experimenting to get there. And that's I mean, I love that about being an entrepreneur, that I get to change and evolve and experiment and learn new things all the time.
Yeah. And now, things that I'm learning are more about having a team and about, there's just different areas that my focus is on now versus like the program that I'm offering. And I think it messes people up in the first few years of business when they keep switching and they don't give anything enough time to really refine it. And the interesting thing that happens, so I work with a lot of life coaches, and they're always like, they think they're going to get bored of coaching around the same topic. But what happens when they're kind of scattered and they're coaching people on so many different things is they never actually get to really refine their coaching process within a specific niche problem. And it's really rewarding when you do that, because you really can start to read people's minds. You know exactly where your clients are going to go because you've just coached so many people down that same path. You can get way more nuanced with your coaching. You get way better at coaching when you kind of do it stay in the same lane versus kind of popcorning around and just coaching everybody. But we don't know that, right? So we assume it's going to be boring, but actually it becomes more fulfilling because you just get so good at what you do when you develop the expertise in a particular area. And I think that's more rewarding than people think it's going to be. And so they think they need to niche hop, but actually you can get so much, joy out of just actually sticking with the same thing because you develop you just develop different angles.
Or you realize that this is not the direction you want to go, like with career coaching.
Yeah. Or you do it enough that you're like, okay, this isn't the thing. And then you just cut it out. But you have to do it enough to really get to know that. You can't just do one session and decide, oh, I don't really like that.
I'm sometimes thinking that, my niche, I started out as really marketing for yoga teachers because my background is in advertising. Then I went to Bali for yoga teacher training. And then I slowly started helping other yoga teachers with their marketing and their websites. And so that's how it kind of organically evolved. Yeah. And sometimes I'm also thinking, should I branch out? Should I also attract should I just say spiritual entrepreneurs or wellness entrepreneurs? Because some of my students, they aren't yoga teachers. And obviously I also love with people, I'm more focused on entrepreneurs who want to build a thriving online business. So I can't help them grow a yoga studio. That's because I haven't done that.
I think what's great about that was you started with something really specific. And so you come from a marketing background, so it's a little bit different. But for most people, you start with something specific and you learn how to sell. You need to learn marketing. You need to learn sales. You need to learn how to run a business. And once you have that machine kind of running, then there's and money coming in is what I mean. Then there's some space to be okay, should I expand this? Where is the next sort of natural progression? Whereas if you're trying to decide that at the beginning, you never actually get things going. And so it feels defeating because I see a lot of people quit before they start making any money because they just can't focus enough to actually dive into one thing. And it's just so much better to expand once you understand how to sell something, because it means you just take the same concepts and shift it to a slightly different niche.
Yeah, it's so important to take action, and you can't stay stuck working on your strategy and your niche and your branding
behind the
for
scenes
6 months or something, trying to have everything perfect. Yeah. It's such a normal, I think, human behavior. A lot of people do that, right? Yeah. And hire a website designer and
I don't even think anyone should be building a website until they've at least worked with 10 paying clients. No point in building a website, in my opinion. Just because what are you going to put on it? You need to have worked with people to really know the language and really refine your program and really know what to write on your website. So people do it in reverse. And I think they just waste way too much time and money on the branding and marketing piece of it before they're actually doing the work. People are, especially though, again, my students tend to be newer to whatever modality. So like they just graduated from a health coach training, or they just finished a life coach training. So there's a lot of fear around actually whether or not they can do this thing successfully, whether they can get people results. And so they avoid working with people by doing all the behind the scenes stuff. And then they end up, putting all this effort into a big launch. And then like for their website, it's like, oh, I'm launching my website, but then nothing happens. Like no one, they don't have thousands of followers. So no one's chomping at the bit to sign up for their packages because no one knows who they are. So I think we need to just take the focus off of like the shiny, pretty stuff and put it onto actually like getting out there and doing the work with real people. And that's going to make you progress so much faster.
Definitely. Can you tell us more about your program, how you really help people get started? What's the process?
Yeah, it's really focused on the foundation. So we cover a lot, but sort of in a nutshell, it's based on like niching and then doing market research within that niche and then using that information to create your first package. We try to encourage just one to start and talk about pricing it, and then learning just how to really talk about what you do in a way that's clear and how that kind of trickles into all the rest of your content. So your copywriting and any, blog posts you're doing or videos that you're making or anything like that. And most people are stuck in the first step in the niching because, again, it's like this decision to be made that feels like it's going to impact the rest of your business. And we take the philosophy that it's not. It doesn't really matter what your niche is. Like your success isn't determined by picking the right niche. So we have a really strong focus on action and just like pick something good enough, go out and do it, and then come back and refine it versus trying to like overthink the decision. So we move people through pretty quickly to like, great, you think this is what your niche is? Awesome. Let's go test it. Let's go actually like do things in the real world with it. So that's what I love because I'm a fast action taker and my students naturally are not. So I think it's a good balance because I'm out there just being like, what's the big deal? Just go, 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 go. And they like need that nudge. They love it and hate it. I think. But ultimately, it's good for them.
What role does social media play?
Social media in terms of what I teach, we don't teach any social media. My philosophy is that it's a waste of time to be spending a lot of time like creating content on social. So creating a bunch of images and captions and reels, like all of that stuff is fine. And it can help you grow once you're really, really, really clear about who you're trying to reach and what your message is and what problems you're solving for them. And you've got a clear process that you can like talk about in that content. But before you have all of that, it's just such an energy suck to be creating so much content. So we really advocate other ways of getting in front of new audiences that are not based on social media. But I do really like social media for new business owners as like a networking tool. So as a way to like send someone a DM who's doing something that you think is cool or just like connecting versus creating content. So I do like when people are on it for that reason, but I usually am like, stop creating all your posts. Like it's a waste of time. Stop all of it. And our business is a bit different because we have quite a scaled program. And so we do run Facebook ads. We do use social media differently, but I'm at a point where I hire someone to do it all for me. They have a strategy. It is not in my hands. And over the years, we've kind of been able to test what works and what doesn't. But for newbies, it's way too much to be putting a lot of energy into social, in my opinion, unless you're really good at it, which some people fight me on this one because they're like, but I love it. I'm awesome at creating videos. I know how to like get my message across. And I'm like, great, but most people don't. So
that's true. Yeah.
I
think it's still like really helpful, like when you're a yoga teacher, to be active because everybody checks out everybody's Instagram account.
Yeah.
You're like,
and yoga's a bit different. I guess it depends on sort of what you're niching around and how, what the goal is of being on social for sure. But I think that like there's value in doing some of the foundational work first before just going and trying to like use social as the main avenue. Because if you don't know who you're trying to reach and you don't really know what you're saying and you don't have a captivating point of view that people are going to pay attention to, then like it's just a lot of work. So, and also I would say a lot of my students, they don't want to be on social media. So I'm sort of speaking to the people who are coming to me going like, I really am not interested in social. And I'm like, great, you don't have to be. If you are interested in social, take everything we teach you and just apply it to your social media content. It would be the same as I would tell you to apply it to like when you write a blog post, think about who it's for and what the message is and what you want them to do. after they read it or watch the reel or whatever. But as long as you're sort of putting some thought into it, I think it's just easy to jump out and like think we just need to be doing everything, and people burn out way too fast.
Yes, I would always say at least like focus on one social media platform. Don't think you have to do everything everywhere.
Yeah.
And like do TikTok. And is anybody still using Snapchat, or is that already over?
This is my problem. I'm like not on any of these. So, you know, like Clubhouse was a thing, and then maybe it's not a thing, but maybe it's not anymore. There's just so many that it's like, if you can learn at the beginning how to market yourself that doesn't rely on like trendy fads, then you'll be successful, because it doesn't, you know, like you can put so much energy into learning TikTok and then TikTok goes away and then you're like screwed and you have to start again. So I think it's really important to learn the foundational marketing pieces so that you're not stuck relying on one platform so heavily, because you don't own those platforms. And I see people getting locked out of their Instagram accounts all the time and their business is screwed because they don't have anything else. Just scary.
I'm just worried about all those people trying to grow that business right now on TikTok. I mean, it might happen that TikTok, you know, it gets banned in the US. I see that coming.
I mean, so it's great if you're getting a bunch of traction, but like get those people over to somewhere else that you own, get them on an email list, like have a way to communicate with them. And if they don't want to be over there, you know, my question would be like, do they actually want to pay you, or do they just want to watch your TikTok videos? Right? Like if they're not coming over and it's not translating into, if followers aren't translating into inquiries and leads and conversations and sales, then like, there's really no point in having a bunch of followers.
It's so easy to get lost and then just focus on those vanity metrics on social media and think, oh, that reel went viral. And then, but are those people who watch the reel actually like your ideal customers?
I'm just like, is anyone paying you from that thing? Yes, then great. No, then what, like, why, you know, other than if you like it and it's like a fun thing you kind of like to do and you know, you're not stressing out about it, then fine. But if it feels like draining and like it's a lot of work to be keeping up with it and it's not yielding results, then like, stop.
Do you have some preferences or advice what long form content you like most? So for example, podcasts, blog posts, YouTube videos.
Yeah, I personally, because I'm old school and started my business way back in 2011. I did a lot of blogging when I was new, and that was when blogging was like the thing, you know, so you'd be like guest blogging on other people's websites. But I think blogging's coming back. And the argument for blogging is it builds up a lot of SEO. And so we get a lot of traction and traffic to our website from posts that I wrote years ago.
Yeah, me too.
That just naturally, I never did anything for SEO. They just kind of naturally, you know, started building up traction. I actually just booked myself last week. I was in an Airbnb on a writing retreat, and I wrote enough blog posts to cover us for the entire year, which was a crazy amount of writing. I wrote basically the equivalent of like writing a book in 3.5 days.
So maybe you should do that.
I did that. I just booked an Airbnb here on the coast and went by myself, didn't bring my dogs, didn't bring my husband, just brought my computer and some Adderall and just went to town. And it was great. But I was, you know, so I like to make one piece of content and then use it across all the platforms. So every blog post that I write will go on the blog. We'll email it out as like a newsletter to our current list. We'll chop it up and turn it into a bunch of different social media posts. I'll record it on a private podcast so that subscribers can listen to it instead of read it. I could make it a video and put it on YouTube. I haven't done that yet because I get really lazy with video and I'm like, it's just so much easier for me to be on audio and not have to like, you know,
I know.
get the right lighting or anything like that. So, but I think that you could easily do that. And then one piece of content can just be on all the platforms. Like, I don't think there's any sense in creating a different message for video versus for your blog versus for here. Like, you just want one content to do a lot of the work for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's what I teach my students do.
Yeah.
I think we have such a similar approach to, and also similar backgrounds. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I also love hikings and dogs and van life.
That's my life.
And I'm in an Airbnb right now.
Oh, nice.
It's too cold here right now for really living in a van and too wet.
Yeah. Yeah, since we moved to Squamish, where I live now, I found we've been using the van less. It's mostly like a dog transporter to go to and from different hikes with the dogs. But yeah, when I was living in Toronto, we'd always leave in the van because I hated being in the city. And so we would go off on 2-month road trips and just work from the van, live out of the van. And now it's like, maybe for a weekend trip, it kind of just sits in our driveway. So it's great. It means I live somewhere I don't want to run away from as much. It means the van's not getting as much use.
Yeah, I'm thinking about moving here, like really getting settled on Mallorca. And then I probably sell the van because I'm here in a smaller car. It's a small island. And yeah, really difficult.
It's sad to think about, though. So many good memories from van life.
Yeah, me too. It's struggling. It's sometimes not really easy to balance work and van life.
It is hard on the road. Yeah.
So I enjoy that I'm so much more productive. Right now, I have great internet. Right? I don't lose so much time just with driving somewhere, finding a place, and all the things, getting water.
Oh my gosh, I just remember those days. Yep, I know it well.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like so amazing to have that freedom and to have a business that you can basically run from anywhere. You just need good enough Wi-Fi, internet. And
that's what I found now, especially as we've scaled, that I prefer to be working at home, and then we kind of plan travel and trips and outings around like a big launch I'm doing, so that, it's I can kind of schedule my time a little bit better, and I don't feel the need to be like, I just need to live in the van full time all the time. But it is nice to have the flexibility to go, okay, we're going to launch here, then I'm going to be away in the van here for a month, then I can come back, then we're going to do this other thing. It also is nice.
Do you still do like big launches, or?
I stopped last year because I was just like, or not last year, I guess in 2021, finally burned out on launches, which I never thought was going to happen because I do love launching, but I just had one launch where I was exhausted. My dog had just died and I was a wreck. And I was like, this isn't sustainable. So we kind of switched the program model to be more evergreen enrollment, but it wasn't working as well as we thought. So I did end up doing a launch in the fall. I called it a mini launch. It was kind of a lazy launch. It was still a very, very successful launch, probably as successful as past ones, but we kept it a bit more low key. And so we will be doing that again in March also. I realize we need that kind of energy infusion of a launch to make the revenue that we wanted to make. So currently still launching, but trying to keep them like pretty low key. I'll usually do a webinar and then I'll just kind of be in the inbox answering a bunch of emails, and we have some Facebook ads running. I used to go live every day and do like a whole week of free coaching leading up to it and all of this live stuff. And I've cut most of that out now.
Yeah, I'm the same. I want to keep it simple. I don't want to do a launch with like 4 live webinars and affiliates and a summit where you have to send like a bazillion emails or something.
Yeah, exactly. And for new people, nobody should be doing any big launches. I think it's like a much different strategy when you're trying to fill a kind of a bigger program like what we're doing versus when you're new to business. It's funny because I'll sometimes get called out in like my Facebook ads for, we use strategies to market my program that are different than what I tell my students to do. And I think it's important to understand the strategies that work and that you need when you're new and getting your first, making your first 50,000 are different than strategies that you need when you're scaling up from 100,000 into $1 million. Like it's different strategies. And so just because I'm using Facebook ads and I'm telling my students not to use social media doesn't mean anything. It just means that, my business is not my students' business. And so it's a different
phase, right? It's a different phase where you are with your business. I think, I agree. It doesn't really get talked about enough.
Yeah, I think people just say, you need to have a course, you need to launch, you need a high ticket offer. And like those don't all work for every stage of business. I think you have to be really discerning about if you're signing up for a program, are they focused on teaching you at the stage that you're at? Because usually they're not. Usually it's intended for someone who's further along and can actually like create an evergreen funnel. That doesn't work when you're new.
That would be a great podcast episode. Just talk through those different phases.
Like the stages, I didn't know that when I started. I was like, I'm going to launch an online course. And I created it, sold it. One person bought it. And I was like, oh Okay. So lesson learned, don't create an online course so you have a big audience and they're asking you for a course.
I had 6 sales in my first
Great,
launch.
that's good. It's not going to pay the bills for very long, you know?
I mean, it was probably like I earned like $1,200 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, mine was 97. So you beat me.
And then I created more small courses and hustled my way.
Yeah. You learn through, we learned through the mistakes, but now people can learn through our mistakes, I think.
Hopefully. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing all your actionable advice.
Yeah, thanks. It was great chatting.
Where can people go to learn more about you?
My website is great, theuncagedlife.com. We are on social media at The Uncaged Life, despite me telling you not to be on social. We are still there. And I also have a free Facebook group called Uncaged Lifers. It's like 15,000 people in there now. That started as a way for me to just connect my one-on-one clients together because they were all kind of doing this business thing alone. And I was like, you guys all need to have business friends, like go be friends in this Facebook group. And now it's just 15,000 friends who are all in there supporting each other. And it's just a great place to not sell your services, but to ask questions and get feedback. And, you know, if you're trying to figure out what email marketing system to use, there's all kinds of great advice in there.
I love it. We add the links to the show notes as well, of course.
Great.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much.